Welcome to World Builders Ministries. Before watching this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and do all that stuff. Please continue the discussion in the comments section, as only comments promoting blasphemy against the Lord will be shut down. As a monarchist in the real world, I tend to find fantasy monarchies rather boring and irksome. Why? Just something rather simple about most monarchies in fiction, something that could be limited to a basic explanation, but one that should at least be there. Then I shall explain how monarchy works in the People's Kingdom of Walcotia, one of my fictional settings, as an example of how to do monarchy right, at least in my opinion. Once again, feel free to completely throw this away if you want, but I hope you get some idea from this video. You see, very few people are monarchists just because they believe in monarchs. Very few people believe in autocracy just because they believe in autocratic principles. No, there has to be a justification. Real-world dictators, emperors and whatnot don't just fight for their own personal rule, but instead for something greater than themselves. Here are some real-world examples of this. Divine right to rule. These monarchs believe that their rule is inherently sacred and gifted from God. Their power is ordained by a religion and can be taken away by the same religious principles. Natural law and philosopher kings. These monarchs believe that their rule is inherently ordained within the fabric of the earth. These monarchs aren't in power because they were born into power, but because they have a certain wisdom that others don't. Social contract. Similar to philosopher kings but based on Enlightenment thought, the social contract posits that people inherently agree to be ruled. The monarch is seen as a steward of the people's will. Hereditary destiny. Perhaps your monarch is in power because he descended from a great conqueror or ruler, and that alone brings him legitimacy. Romantic monarchism. Perhaps your monarch justifies his rule not as an overarching ruler, but as a living symbol of his country, the lion of his people, who is the ultimate representative of what his nation is. These are 5 different justifications for monarchy, each making completely different systems of governance. In addition, monarchs don't have to just have one of these justifications. For example, the Emperor of Japan is justified from his perceived divine right. I say perceived because pagan gods are actually demons, hereditary destiny, and the fact that he is a symbol of his country. Meanwhile, the modern British monarchy is justified because of divine right in theory, though currently it is justified because it is the symbol of its nation. Now, let's talk about the nature of the monarch's justification. Is it false, subjective, or true? False monarchies have justifications that are simply false, often tied to the worship of false gods or a fraudulent bloodline. A good example of a false religion and monarchical system is the Empire of the Sun within Bibleridian's Refugium. The Empire of the Sun was founded on a direct belief of sun worship, stating that the Eden language was the original language of the gods, and that all cultural deviations are heresies that need to be fixed. Now, this sounds more like National Socialism than any real-world religion, but I'll give him a break. Atheists are terrible at making religions. Within the real world, as much as it pains me to say due to my love of Japan, the Japanese monarchy has a false justification. Honored by demons such as Amaterasu, the Japanese imperial family managed to build one of the longest-lasting monarchical systems in the world. Today, however, the Japanese imperial family has a much better justification, one resulting in them being the symbol of Japan rather than a pagan institution. In the Hearts of Iron 4 mod, known as the New Order, Sergei Taboritsky has a rather famous and insane path in Russia. And yes, TNO is cringe, but it's an example. Subjective monarchies, on the other hand, may be true or false, but are based on cultural and philosophical justifications that are hard to disprove. For example, the Kaiser's Germany and modern Japanese royal family is based on the doctrine of romantic monarchism, in which the monarchs are a symbol for the state. Some, of course, hate the monarchy as a supposedly oppressive force, while others may respect the monarchy during this time. The important part of subjective justifications for these monarchs is simple. They're not exactly provable, but they are unfalsifiable. Think of the giant flying spaghetti monster as an argument made by atheists. Now, what if the justification is true? Take the divine right in Europe, for example. God ordained the kings of each European country to rule according to Catholic principle, enforcing divine law within these nations and maintaining the worship of God. What if philosopher kings are actual, legitimate philosopher kings, autocrats not just because they've descended from a long line of historical figures, but because they genuinely deserve that power due to their wisdom? This brings in many questions in regards to the character of a certain monarch. What if a tyrannical king is genuinely justified to rule? Do you maintain his position in power or question it? If you do wish to question it, I genuinely wish the best for you, because the reasons why a bad king has a genuine justification are probably more complex than you think, and getting rid of him will have adverse implications. Your noble revolution to establish a democratic government will result in a volcano erupting, leading to you wishing that you had never opposed the king at all. However, if the justification is genuine, a single statement reigns true, especially for good monarchs. Heavy weighs the crown on the head of a troubled ruler. If your king has genuine connections to the divine, then expect him to live his entire life in constant fear of doing something wrong. Give him doubts, concerns, and worries about his future. Give him moments where he considers throwing the crown away and abandoning his divine destiny, only to return to his duty when the time is right. Also, if he is evil, feel free to let him try to abuse it, only to realize that he can't. Now that that's done, let's talk about how monarchy works within the People's Kingdom of Walkotia. First, what's important is to say that Walkotia is technically a republic. Its first and last king, Resolven I of the Havrak dynasty, died during the early 1400s. His successors didn't claim the title of king or emperor, but the man who wears the king's crown or the man who sits on the emperor's throne. This is why the Walkotian monarch is an inherently religious position deeply connected to the state religion of Thorax faith. By the way, my next video will be concerned about religion and how atheists mess up world-building religion big time. How is the Walkotian monarch chosen? Elective? Constitutional? Well, simple. There is a hidden order of knights, men of hidden virtue and chosen by destiny to become a part of this order. While there is an invisible part of the order that engages in spiritual practices against demonic magic, the part of the order visible to Walkotian society is known as the Orden Sitiais Japitalu, or the Order of Japitalu in English. This order chooses the new monarch in a complex and magical way unknown to the average civilian, but once the monarch is chosen, he remains. In short, the justification of Walkotia's monarchical system is all monarchs rule in the stead of Resolven, the first emperor of Walkotia, and that all kings or emperors of Walkotia must do what Resolven would have done, or at least maintain that their actions are in the spirit of Resolven. However, that justification works only for followers of one denomination of Walkotia's official religion of Thorax faith. What about other religions? What about atheists? There always remains the romantic justification of Walkotian monarchism. The monarch is the symbol of the nation and a philosopher king, someone to guide Walkotia into a better era and a constant that all can rely upon. This system has worked so well that in the 739 years of Walkotia's existence, Walkotia has had only 3 terrible monarchs, and none of them have done anything enough to remove faith in the monarchical system that remained throughout many years. This, of course, is because the justification for Walcottier's monarchy is inherently magical, and because of that, it is inherently true. While I could be going on and on about the system's virtues, I ultimately hope that this gives you something interesting to think about. Once again, I don't control your world-building projects, and if you think that this video is stupid, throw it away. As always, the Lord is the divine source of creation. He who is beyond all, the honored, blessed, and great, most powerful, most beautiful, most righteous, most wise, most knowing, and most loving, for he is love itself. Amen.